that they shall see out their. I think that is the process. I think is discriminatory.
Okay.
Yes.
Akpo Mudiaga Odje, doctor. Your name came as a ringing bell in Nigeria when you took a former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, to court.
Yes.
Concerning why will a president be the minister of petroleum?
Yes.
And also a president.
Yes.
Today, we still see subsequent presidents still keeping that portfolio.
No, what I did actually was not to challenge him as being the president. What we did was that he didn't have a minister of petroleum resources.
Okay.
And the act, the Petroleum Act, provided, including the NNPC Act, that there shall be a minister.
Okay.
A minister. It's not the president.
Or a minister.
He said there must be a minister.
So not the president.
And that minister shall regulate price of fuel under Section 6. In our body, petroleum pricing regulatory, blah, 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 to regulate. I said there's already a conflict.
Yes.
And why is the NNPC, the act of the NNPC and the Petroleum Act to talk about regulation? Bajo came again with the regulation. And there was a conflict. So I said, well, first of all, there must be a minister. And so we filed an action. And the court in the federal court is now in the Court of Appeal. I think it's going to the Supreme Court now. It's in the Supreme Court now. It was a good judge, Sivinada. I federal court. He was very sympathetic to me anytime I come because he said you come from Warri a long way. I will take your case, please, please. He was very nice to me. And he said we had no local standard. We got the Court of Appeal. While we were there, the pressure was mounting on Obasanjo. And suddenly, Obasanjo appointed Professor Edmond Duke Dakuru, His Royal Majesty. Yes, as the minister, on 25th of July, 2005, from the pressure of that case.
Okay.
And that's why I say people should understand that we all are in this together and we must fight it in this together. So I'm asking more people to join us in hands to be your neighbor's keeper. Challenge government. Challenge government. Rebellion against tyranny is obedience to God.
Do you have any word now for present Senate President concerning the Niger Delta report that is yet to be held?
Akpo should look at himself as representing the interests of the ethnic minorities. I believe it's an EBP man or Anang. I don't think it's in that area, in that territory. He should know that we are small and the resources of this country are put under us. He must ensure that within this period, because his office is not fixed, but his senatorial seat is fixed, but his office as Senate President is not fixed.
Yes.
He can be impeached anytime. He must impact and make legislations and activities that will protect us. In fact, at that time, the Heavy Winking reports in 1957, paragraphs 19 to 14 or thereabout, made it clear why he said that fundamental rights should be included in the Constitution was that these people, he claimed to us, said they are minority and need protection because of their resources from the Gargantuan majority tribes of our country. And that is why you see the fundamental rights were put there to protect us. So we have to really look at that. Now I have an issue to tell you. There's a constitutional amendment. I was part of the first set, the maiden edition of Constitutional Amendment in 2002, when I was a special advisor to the then Deputy Speaker on constitutional matters. I wrote many things. And by the grace of God, in 2008, I was appointed into the 11-man committee to draft the electoral laws, although I declined it on principles. And these are part of the reasons. One, if you look at our Constitution, Section 55 of our Constitution, it's a Constitution. Section 55 says that the business of the National Assembly shall be conducted in English, Hausa, Yoruba, or Igbo, where there is an interpreter. And I look at myself. I came from a rainy, oil-producing community. We give over 11,000 barrels of crude every day to this nation. Yet my language is not recognized by this same Constitution that my money is printing. It's not recognized in the National Assembly to conduct its business which National Assembly is built from the resources of my money.
Yes.
So, in other words, my resources is a blessing, my language an abomination. And God forbid. So that is a constitutional provision inside your constitution, as we speak. A constitution recognizing priorities of language. I believe it's a simple thing. Just say that the business of the National Assembly can be conducted in English or any other Nigerian language. Get that sense of belonging. So these things are entrenched in your constitution. So you say you are amending the constitution, and this thing has been there. Since you are amending the constitution, you are damaging the constitution. You are not even amending the already damaged constitution. And again, let me tell you, this will shock you. The entire South-South, in this entire South-South, comprising 6 states, we have 55 members out of the 360 members in the House of Representatives.
Okay.
We have 6 states, not so?
Yeah.
We have 55 members. Only Kano has 44 members.
Wow.
So how come this, a whole 6 states, if they want to make a legislation, only Kano can truncate it? Lagos has 23. So what kind of country am I? What kind of arrangement? How did they get this delineation that gave them 44 representatives and give the entire 6 states of the
Niger Delta region
5
members?
That was why when we tried to amend the Petroleum Act, anytime you go there, they put it to vote, and that's the end of the matter. So how did this voodoo census and delineation take place? So these are part of the things you and I have to look into,
okay,
and ask ourselves. And the issue about Nigerian iniquities is not necessarily political agitation. We have been trapped by laws passed in our presence and be bound by those laws. And people don't know. And 14:16, the prophetic Hosea said, my people perish for lack
of knowledge.
So that's where we are.
The program has still been the Niger Delta Chatroom Show, and our guest has been the Nigerian constitutional lawyer, Dr. Akpo Mudiaga Odje, on the hot seat. You've been hearing the real gist of the peace and development of the Niger Delta region. How would you assess President Tinubu as president?
First of all, let us agree that he came at a time Nigeria was getting further entrenched in the downtrodden sphere of its economy and even its political life. But we cannot completely extricate him for that, because he brought the person that was responsible for that state of affairs. Now, he took 2 very important, I use the word...
bold step.
Well, I would just say, is it a bold step or bold misstep? By 1, trying to totally eliminate subsidy, which is still on, and floating the naira. People claim that floating the naira could never work because we are not a producing nation.
Okay.
We don't produce anything to sustain the value of the naira in the world. We don't produce anything. We produce corruption. So that alone, standing on its own and floating it without productivity, is down. You have crude and you're importing fuel. The refineries are not working.
Okay.
Who will give you dollars? So the dollars comes only from the crude you sell. And the crude you are selling, you have even mortgaged in future. The ones you are producing, already mortgaged. Then, trying to remove the subsidy. Good idea. But how and what do you do to monitor the surplus or the subsidy you have withdrawn? You are not sending it to the states. You are sending it to the states. Are the states a veritable channel by which the people will feel the positive impact of the withdrawal of subsidy? Not at all. So I can see now that the policy has been a misstep. The most important thing is for us to tackle, if we can, to reduce drastically the price of fuel.
Okay.
Because the cabal is still on. Whether it's NPC that is the sole importer or not, there is something which I call an act of financial terrorism being, inflicted on our people by a certain set of people who run the affairs of the oil industry. Dangote, you can see his own challenge. And now you are saying that people should give him crude oil and let him pay in naira. Whereas these people have produced their crude oil based on dollars. How do you reconcile that? And most importantly, we hear again that to produce a barrel of Nigerian crude is $48.
$48.
Highest everywhere in the world. In Saudi Arabia, it's $1. Even Iraq, $2. So at least you have 98% to do your profits and overhead costs. Nigeria to do a barrel is $48. So you already short out. You have 52% of interest, whatever you want to get, and logistics or whatever to recoup. You can see how it is. So it's very high. It's not productive. It's not attractive. That the NNPC is owing close to $7 billion, not just $6 billion, for importing these products of PMS. Now there is an agreement clause which says why the money is pumping up. Why the money is pumping up? There's an agreement clause which says 90 days must be the base day for repayment of any person who has imported the crude for NNPC.
Yes.
But if you fail within that 90 days, you'll be paying $250,000 every month.
Every month.
So that's what's going on.
Wow.
So it's from the $250,000 every month that the money is going up. And we heard 3 people have now stopped. And the requisition for June and July was minimal because people are pulling out of the supplies. If this fuel continues to rise, Nigerians will continue to suffer.
Like you just said, if the fuel continue to rise, let me just come in there. NNPC, the Minister of Petroleum, Eneke Lokpobri, said that the federal government can no longer, after promising Nigeria that Port Harcourt refinery will start commerce production, that federal government can no longer handle Warri refinery and Kaduna refinery, that they need private investors to take care of that. So do you see NNPC? Are they aside corruption in the system?
I used to have
after investing so much dollars into rehabilitation.
We usually have a film when we were young. It was called Ama House of Horror.
Ama House of Horror.
And there's another soap opera called House of Commotion. Those parodies would reflect what happens in that territory. Let me tell you, we knew from the onset with several, procrastinations and postponements. In fact, you don't need the clairvoyance of Nostradamus to know that NNPC cannot run these refineries. What happened to the refineries before they broke down? Who was responsible? So, do you think a man who was responsible for a situation that has put us in this state can also make himself responsible to bring us out of this state? He will even come back viciously. So, if we are giving the private individuals to run, there are certain steps. I heard the NNPC saying anybody who wants to take over must not have a debt, background or a debt record. It must come clean and all that. Good. You are the clean one. We are looking for clean people.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, look at the general Nigerian market. There's insecurity in the country. I'm talking about investments. Also, insecurity. What at the present state of the refineries, before you call private people, they have to do a due diligence to know whether the refinery can ever work in the first place. It's not about telling private people, will it work? Remember, under my watch written by Obasanjo, he reflected that while he was leaving office, he sold the Port Harcourt refinery to Dangote. Are you not aware? He wrote it in his book. And that Yaradua came and, cancelled it and gave Dangote his money back. Obasanjo said he phoned Yaradua. Yaradua said, pressure. And he asked him as a president, what pressure? He wrote it in his book. But the point there was, the sale was undervalued, and Yaradua was a good man. And he did the right thing.
Yes.
So now, before you sell, due diligence, security situation in Nigeria, and others are looked into. So how much are you bidding this thing to run for? How much do you require every year or for the period the man runs this refinery? Are these refineries modern? Who built them those that build them, you better approach them. We've been doing turnaround maintenance that have been turnaround corruption. So, until we have transparent management in the oil sector, now the PIA has said the NNPC should be listed in the stock exchange.
Okay.
And I'm still fighting because the NNPC shares are only owned by the Ministry of Finance on behalf of Nigeria. We in Nigeria that produce this, why don't we have shares? Why don't we have shares? We are supposed to, these 9 oil producing states or the 60 states of Niger Delta ought to have shares inside this NNPC, because it's not a private company.
Yes.
It is no longer, but as at now, government is still treating it as government property. And NNPC is looking at itself as government property.
Baby.
So these are the problems we're having. I'm telling you about implementation and execution of law in Nigeria has been the greatest problem of our nation. We do not observe the rule of law. You have developed societies in the United Kingdom, the rule of law takes place highest, even in South Africa. In the US, don't go there. Once the law does not rule, then you have the rule of force. And that's where you have this chaotic situation. Nigeria, people are hungry. People are dying. People are suffering. 1,600 naira to $1. I almost collapsed when I discovered that at this time, the CFA francs that we used to look down on as children has gone beyond Nigeria 3 times or so. It's a sad testimonial. I'm telling you, we are passing through horrifying times. That the people are just in a state of, perpetual docility, not out of cowardice, but because of economic, downturn and intimidation because of the country. But people cannot talk. So, this first year, I don't think there's anything for me to score.
Okay.
Although government, indeed, the index showed that there's a growth in the GDP, but according to the editorial of the Punch yesterday, I agree with them. If it doesn't translate, then it's still in the realm of academics. We want to see this in translate. And the most important thing I can think is quick justice for help us is to reduce the cost of fuel.
Okay.
Reduce the cost of fuel.
All right. I think viewers will not forgive me if I don't ask you this question. As a true son of the Niger Delta, if I don't ask you the political crisis in Rivers State between Minister Wike and Fubara, what do you think? Because if there's crisis in Rivers State, it will definitely affect other states within the region. So what is your take between the leadership political crisis between Minister Wike and Governor Fubara?
Well, the point is, there is a sitting governor, and it's good to respect the office of the governor.
Okay.
You can have disagreements, but I do not, lend credence to disagreements that lead into violation of law, force, violence. It's not worth it. Because at the end of the day, it is the state that will suffer, and the people of the state. We have parallel houses of assembly running. We have oppositions in their party congresses. But to me, the governor is the leader of the state. Whether I was a small boy yesterday or not, he must be respected and protected by the people, regardless of whoever. That is my take. And that's how I look at my matters. If you want to remove him, follow the due process. And let him go. Everybody's clinging to the judgment. You have this one, so they are, even in fact, the judiciary has been reduced completely because of these political issues. And I'm thinking that the new Chief Justice of Nigeria should think of a way of handling political matters. Because if you don't handle them carefully, they will turn the judiciary upside down. Politicians are very clever people, and they are very slick and sly, clairvoyant and Spartan. They can do anything and use anything to twist the law. You might give a judgment that does not say, I should restrain you. They will talk to the press. Before we get the judgment, the reported we are restrained. They can get the police to follow that narrative. Before you get the copy of the real judgment, the damage has been done. So I, for one, I beg both parties to sheath their swords, which is almost impossible now. But if you want to fight, fight within the law and the constitution. But the governor, as the duly elected, must be respected.
Okay.
And the people of the state must stand to defend their government.
Okay. On the final question, before I let you go, people say that the lack of development in Niger Delta region is in the handwork of the Niger Delta leaders, royal fathers, and politicians, and not the federal government or the multinationals. What's your take on that?
To some extent, a percentage of truth is contained therein.
Okay.
Because there seem to be at times collusion, connivance, and complicity between the oil exploiters and our own leaders.
Okay.
That's what you call the divine and rule structure. You are aware of that. Shell benefited that, and Shell introduced it, which was classified as the politics of oil. Shell introduced it. Shell is a master. Yes, it has officers, ministry of this, department of that, and all that. Community relations. That's where the word comes in. There's a department of community relations. That is where. There's no community relations there. It's just community bribing and picking to choose who to empower, projects to do and projects not to do. So I believe strongly too that if we do not have a willing dealer in the spirit of our leaders, there will not be a willing giver from share.
Okay.
So that is true. We must, that's why I said these young boys who are coming up now, from Polo, Asari, Kobo and Co, should also have a cohesive structure to ensure that our leaders do not sell us out.
Okay.
Not fighting them, not harassing them, but making these oil exploiters not to pass direct responsibility to them without telling them. So if you want to develop my community, you come to the youth and they tell us this is what we want to do, and this amount we are paying. But we also give your papa this amount. We say that's fine.
Okay.
We didn't stop them from taking, but let them just let them pass through the right channel. Just hold it and without us having anything.
Okay.
Give all, like Christ said, unto Caesar.
What is Caesar?
And unto God.
What is God?
That's it.
All right. I tell you, it's Niger Delta Chatroom show where we talk peace and development. So we have our constitutional lawyer, Dr. Akpo Mudiaga Odje. So quickly, I want you to look straight to the camera and tell, because development is what Delta people need. And what is your final word for His Excellency on how to foster development to Delta State and Warri in particular?
Our Excellency, what we require, you have started it on a good note, and we pray God give you the strength, wisdom to continue to consolidate on what you have started. In fact, what we need is more of more. I use that word. We wish you all the best, but remember, at the end of your tenure, we wish you the best for 2 times. You will have to have that posterity will hold and say, yes, there was a man who passed through this place, and he gave to his people this, and God will be happy with you. So your flyovers, very good. Road construction, good. Now you move to education to develop our people. Education is wealth. We go to the Ministry of Health, and also agriculture. We need to farm. We need to feed ourselves, and the gas resources of this state has to be enhanced with great hands. Of course, we are happy and commend you for UTM, FNLG, Julius Trone, who is running our gas. We have 3,000 cubic of gas on this area, domestic gas. Please partner with such people, partner in all aspects, because like I said, posterity is the key, which represents God. God has put you there. One day, you must give account to God of what you use that talent for. So wish you all the best and continue more of more.
Okay. All right. That has been our show this week. Micha Darby Minute is my name. I know the hot seat, dishing out critical issues, talking peace and development, has been Nigeria constitutional lawyer Barrister Akpo Mudiaga OJ, Doctor. So thank you very much for being on the hot seat despite all your busy schedules.
Thank you too.
All right, that has been the show. Tell you, stay put for another special edition where another Niger Delta son will be on the hot seat to talk peace and development of the Niger Delta region. Remember, the Niger Delta region is the feeding bottle of the Nigerian nation. Bye-bye.